What then is, in your mind, the next step for people that would like to help in the effort to sort of bridge this, or at least take the temperature down of the conversation?
The connection with the Muslim world is like that. We just can't cut it off. There are 1.4 billion Muslims, 57 nations. We need to understand Islam very, very quickly. And as you said, bring the temperature down. When we see a woman in a hijab or a veil, or a man with a beard, we often think that there's something wrong with them. Present company excluded, of course.
Professor Ahmed is also former High Commissioner of Pakistan to the United Kingdom and was political agent in the South Waziristan Agency in Pakistan, which was in the former Northwest Frontier Province, and also Commissioner of 3 divisions in Baluchistan. And the experience of governing there has informed much of his writing.
This is a bit like Christmas in the Christian world. We are in Cairo and we are celebrating the birthday of our holy prophet.
For Muslims like me, Islam is more than a religion. It is a whole way of life.
Jinnah, Pakistan and Islamic identity. To achieve the kind of impact that most academics can only dream of.
Mr. Jinnah for Pakistanis is like Washington, Jefferson and Franklin rolled into one.
It led to a film on Jinnah, where Jinnah was played by the late, great Christopher Lee.
He founded Pakistan, and I played it in this film. And I know it's the best thing I've ever done, by a long, long way.
My studies really began on 9/11. I was in class. I had just joined American University. I'd come from England. This was my first or second lecture. And I'm sitting in a class not unlike this little group here. And the students looking up at me with some incomprehension. I'm not going to say very much like you are looking at me right now, but there was that sort of, who the hell is this guy? You know, why should we be even taking his class? No one knew who I was. And at that time, at that moment, in fact, the class began to disintegrate as these kids with their cell phones began to understand something terrible was happening at that very time. The plane slammed into the Pentagon, which is just a few miles from my university. And from that day onwards, I sort of committed myself. I said, I commit myself now to promoting interfaith understanding. I literally haven't rested one 24-hour period. It's been non-stop. White House, State Department, Pentagon, think tanks, universities, talking to students, journalists. And I find that the faster I run, the more I'm needed to run faster, because there are so many misunderstandings constantly being created, gaps constantly being opened up.
No Sharia in America! You child killer! And one day, all Islam will be scoured off of the earth.
Anderson, I want you to ask yourself this question. I'm sure your mathematics is better than mine. If every Muslim in the United States of America, which is about 2% of the population, wanted Sharia, which is not the case at all, even if they wanted it, could they impose it over a population of 98% who are not Muslim in a democracy? Day and night, you hear this buzzing. It's like the angel of death. You have a lot of these drone operators sitting in the Midwest somewhere in the United States, looking at their screens and just chit-chatting as if though they're playing God.
The thistle and the drone. It's about tribal societies, and again in my work I realized that very often both the West and the Muslim world look at this relationship between the West and the world of Islam in terms of two huge blocks. What is very often missed are the interstices, those areas between national boundaries, in the mountains, on the periphery, away from the centers of power in the Muslim world. And it's there where I focused in the study. And I've done a correlation, so when you look at these areas, the areas on the periphery, that's exactly where the drone strikes are taking place. So it's the Pakhtun in Afghanistan, Pakistan, the Yemen, the Somalia, the Kurds in East Turkey. And again, you'll realize that these are all tribal societies with their codes of honor, their lineage system, their tribal clans and so on. And of course, that creates a huge problem for these societies because their own central governments are after them. Then these drones come into the picture, and those societies are small-scale societies. They're impoverished, and they're being, as it were, destroyed. And I think this is a hugely neglected area of the world.
In light of events around the world right now, we need understanding, we need ideas, and we look to you.
The exercise to understand the Muslim world is not a luxury for the United States. It is an absolute imperative.
It's 1978. In charge of the administration. I am armed with my secret weapon, a fresh PhD in anthropology. We need to read more about each other, Muslims and non-Muslims, visit our houses of worship, visit homes, make friends, everything we can do to try to have some mutual comprehension. Muslims, Muslim leadership, they have to do a better job in explaining their religion, their culture, their traditions.
Muslims often make that mistake. They live in a bubble.
And Americans need to reach out to Muslims as citizens. These are citizens. For most Americans, Muslims are what the Russians were for Winston Churchill, a riddle wrapped in a mystery inside an enigma. And I, as an anthropologist, provide a key to open that society, to demystify it.
And the more I read, the more people I met, I began to realize how essentially similar we are. And if we could promote this understanding, it would be a better world.
We did a program with you and the father of the murdered journalist Daniel Pearl, Judea Pearl. This made a huge impact.
These people transcend this tragedy and convert it into an act, a symbol of hope.
Journey into Islam. I traveled with my students and we went to the Middle East, to South Asia, to Far East Asia. And we came back with hundreds of interviews and proper questionnaires conducted in the field.
Tikkun Olam, that is healing a fractured world. We have to go out and heal this world.
The bishop on my right, the imam on my left, the spiritual pillars of Las Vegas. And Bishop, you have a church just next to the mosque.
The imam and I, we have forged a great relationship. He's my brother, my brother in the Lord, and my brother just in general.
We need to be promoting the idea of the dialogue of civilizations and away from the idea of the clash of civilizations.
Your project is certainly, I think, something that is very pleasing to God, above all. God, the Father of us all. And it's truly a work of God, and I think that is evident in your desire to bring together the people of the world in greater love and respect for one another.
We are honored to have you.
Jako smo zahvalni za vašu knjigu koju smo prevrhali sa
We are very thankful for the book that we translated.
To je knjiga koja nas inspirirala, nas ulema, moram to kazati.
That your book was inspiration to our ulema here.
Dakle, i to je nešto što je posebno, naravno,
That's something very special and very important for us.
Hvala vam na svemu što činite, naravno.
Thank you for everything that you're doing.
Da se ovi mostovi grade.
For those bridges to be built between Muslims and other.
I would just like to commend the good doctor for his wonderful work in helping to change the mindset of not only Americans but citizens of the world. This is a very important effort because many of our ills in society come about as a result of ignorance. And what the good doctor is doing is helping to break down those walls and those barriers of ignorance and bringing us into a new understanding and a new enlightenment.
So that work is so important, that you devote your life, that you put yourself into this hardship of traveling around. And I know what it means. I cannot think of more warm feelings than I have towards your work and the work of, I think it's wonderful that you have another generation following up. So you have really my most heart feelings to succeed.
The essence of America must be religious pluralism. There is a statue of Jefferson outside his university alongside an angel. The angel is carrying a tablet. The tablet says 1786, religious freedom. He's really saying that this is a new world, it's a new vision of society, and we have to create a world which will become a model for the rest of the world. Tolerance, of pluralism, of acceptance. We are living at a time of what we could call an existentialist threat to our common humanity. I think if our students are aware that we are facing something bigger than the color of my skin or the passport that I hold, I think they become aware and they become your champions. It is that generation, this coming generation, that has to pick up these ideas and run with them.
What is America? America's all these people.
Thank you for speaking to us here at the BBC News.
Journey into America, the challenge of Islam, Ambassador Akbar Ahmed. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Everything should remind us of the glory, of the wonder of life on earth. Everyone, it's not Jewish, not Muslim, not Christian, not atheist, everyone. We share our common humanity. It goes back to the Quranic verse that we made you into different tribes and nations so you may know each other.
I heard it in Rumi's poetry. I know it was in Gandhi's gaze. I sensed it in Mandela's auditory. I saw it in Jesus' ways.
I have a duty from John Paul II. He said, every time you meet a Muslim, please give him a hug and just say, this hug is from the Pope.
It is God's greatest gift. It raises us high above. It is the bridge over the rift. It is love, love, love.